Hey class, today we're going to continue on with chapter 4. Now that we've talked about the skin, we're going to move on to appendages of the skin. Again, this section is a little long from your textbook, so if you don't understand something, please make sure that you're either rewatching the video or coming up and asking me questions. With that, let's get started. Moving on, the second type of appendage of the skin is hair. Hair is produced by a hair follicle. Fun fact, humans are born with as many hair follicles as they will ever have, and hair is actually among the fastest growing tissues of the body. If you think about that video that we watched in class, they were talking about how you can have so much hair in such a short amount of time. I was surprised by that fun fact that we grow so much. Now, hair is found all over the body, but there are a few exceptions where you're not going to find hair. These include the palms of the hands, soles of the feet, nipples, and your lips. Hormones often account for a lot of the different hair that we grow, especially in our hairy regions, such as your scalp, that is your hair, by the way, your pubic region, and your axillary area. In case you forgot what axillary means, axillary is going to be your armpit. Hair does provide several functions. For protection, these are generally minor functions. Protective functions can include, and not limited to, when you fall, your hair on your head helps guard against bumps. It does help shield your eyes, and this is in the form of eyelashes. And it does keep foreign particles out of your respiratory tract, and these are usually going to be your nose hairs. Besides protective functions, hair also serves as a way of attracting your sexual partners. Think about it. If you're going to go on a date, you're going to get your hair all dolled up and you're going to make it look nice so your partners think you look attractive. Hair in the past also served the function of temperature regulation. However, because we have other ways of keeping us warm, such as putting on a jacket or burning fuel source in the source of a fire, the function of insulation during cold weather has phased out and we've lost that usefulness of hair. If we're going to talk about hair, it is going to be described as a flexible epithelial structure. It consists of hard keratinized epithelial cells and melanocytes located in your hair often give your hair the color that it is. Remember, melanocytes create melanin, which again is a pigment in your skin, but also a pigment in your hair. Now let's move on to structures of the hair. Inside each hair follicle, which creates the hair, is something called a hair bulb. This hair forms from the division of a well-nourished stratum basale layer, so there it's coming from that base layer of your epidermis, and they come from something called a growth zone, which is located inside that hair bulb. This growth zone is known as a matrix. It gets its name because this is where your hair grows from. The other two structures are your root and your shaft. Your root is the part of the hair enclosed in the hair follicle. This is the part that you do not see if you're just looking at hair from the surface. The shaft, on the other hand, is the part that pokes up above your skin or your scalp, and this is going to be the part that you do see. Everything that is located in that's considered the shaft are actually dead epidermal cells. Your hair is completely 100% dead cells. Here's a picture of the structure of a hair root and follicle. So down here, the whole entire thing is a follicle. Down here, this layer right here is going to be your growth layer, where you're going to be creating more cells so your hair grows. Here's your root, so this is the part located underneath the skin surface. Oftentimes, remember with hair, There are sebaceous or oil glands. So I'm going to put this oil glands associated with it. We're going to talk about this erector pili muscle here coming up. And then everything above the surface of the skin that you can see, this is the hair shaft. Within talking about the actual hair strand, there are different layers. Even though hair looks so tiny, if you put it underneath a photomicrograph, you can see different layers. The first layer is your medulla. These are going to be large cells, and there's a lot of air spaces. This is going to be your innermost layer. This is surrounded by something called the cortex. These are several layers of flattened cells. So this cortex is going to be your middle. And then your outermost layer is known as your cuticle, and this covers the cortex. This is our most heavily keratinized region of hair. And remember, keratin gives hair its tough approach, but also helps waterproof it as well. Here is a scanning electron micrograph image of the hair, and you can see that it is layers of just flattened dead cells that do slosh off. Next appendage that we're going to talk about is specifically the hair follicle, the part that creates or holds hair. Hair follicles are composed of two major parts. The first is your inner epithelial root sheath. This again is made up of epithelial tissue and forms the hair specifically. Everything outside of it is called your outer fibrous sheath, and this is going to be composed of dermal connective tissue. Hair follicles, again, are located in the dermal region, and this dermal region is important because it provides a good blood supply and reinforcement to the hair bulb. Hair bulb, again, this is where your growth occurs because that's where the matrix is located. And we want this to have a good blood supply because, again, blood provides nutrients and oxygen to those new cells that are being created. Another thing about a hair follicle is usually there's something called an erector pili muscle attached to it. This is a smooth muscle that connects. Whenever you guys get cold or you get frightened, these smooth muscles contract and it actually pulls the hair upright. You guys often associate these with goosebumps. So goose bumps. Again, I bring this picture up. So here's your erector pili muscle. When this contracts, this actually stiffens up and it pulls the hair to be straight up and down. And again, you get your goosebumps that you get. Over here, this is a structure of a hair root and a follicle. So I'm going to give you a little bit closer up version of it. Here, the root is the part located underneath the skin that you cannot see. There are 3 layers. The outermost is your cuticle, the middle is your cortex, and the innermost is your medulla. When talking about your hair follicle, we talked about 2 different regions, so here we can visually see it. The outermost region, this is our fibrous sheath or our connective tissue. The innermost is going to be epithelial. We've also talked about your hair matrix or your growth zone. This is going to be these cells located right here. This is going to be creating new cells for your hair to consistently grow over and over again. We also talked about melanocytes. This helps give pigment to your hair. And the last thing that we talked about was how the dermal layer located underneath it has blood vessels. So here's these blood vessels that are constantly supplying O2 and nutrients to this growth area so more cells can be created. The last skin appendage that we're going to talk about are nails. These are described as heavily keratinized, scale-like modifications of the epidermis. So again, it arises from the epidermal layer and usually is pushed down into deeper layers. Where, again, they locate is where all new cells are generally created, and that is your stratum basale layer. That is the lowest part of your epidermis again. This extends beneath the nail bed, which the nail bed is responsible for the growth. Nails do not have any melanocytes in them, so they do not have any dark appearance. In fact, nails lack pigment, and so they're often colorless. And you might be like, well, when I look at my nails, they kind of have a pink tone to it. Well, the reason they appear pink is because of the blood supply, or those blood vessels that are located in the dermis layer. The exception of where you will see color is over a region where the nail matrix is thickened, so much so that it appears as a white crescent, and called the lanule. So I'm going to go ahead and star that, and I'm going to show you a picture of where your lanule is located. Before I show you where that's located, I'm going to talk about a few other structures so I can point those out on the picture as well. So in terms of parts of a nail, you have the free edge. This is the part that you can easily scratch somebody. You have the body, and this is the visibly attached portion on the top. You have your nail folds, which are just skins that overlap the edge of the nail. Your cuticle is a nail fold on the proximal edge. So again, let's talk about what the word proximal. Proximal means closest to the point of attachment. So closest to point of attachment. Then you have the root of the nail. Again, the root of the nail is going to be where it's embedded and held in the skin. And then you have the growth of the nail that occurs in the nail matrix, which is your stratum basale layer. So over here is a picture of your nail. Your free edge, again, like I said, is the part that you're actually scratching somebody with, so up here. The body is the top of the nail and everything that you see. Your nail folds, again, are the skin that overlaps here. And notice that your cuticle is going to be the one on the proximal end. One thing to also note about this region is that this is pink because of blood vessels below it. In this picture, you can see blood vessels here and here. But up here towards the proximal end, you're going to see more of a white. That is the lanule that we're talking about. Now your nail doesn't just end right here at the cuticle. You're going to notice down here on a sidewards drawing picture that if you keep going, you have the root of the nail and the nail matrix all located down here, which is constantly creating more nail because your nails are going to continuously grow, which is why you have to take out those fingernail clippers and clip them every once in a while so they don't get too long. And that is the end of today's lesson. I know it was long. Again, make sure that you're asking questions, and I'll be willing to help you as much as I can. And I hope you have a good day.